Many fans know that feeling of disappointment when an ending fails to live up to expectations. In this video, we analyze the most controversial endings that, at the time, ruined entire series. For each case, we'll look at what went wrong in the anime, and if applicable, how it differs from the original manga ending. From adaptations that invented rushed endings to manga that closed the plot in an unsatisfactory way, we review both approaches to understand why these endings were so criticized. The poor ending of Berserk is not due to a weak conclusion, but rather to the lack of an ending. Kentaro Miura's manga remained unfinished. To date, there is no definitive conclusion, and the animated adaptations abruptly interrupted the story. As Univision explains, the manga remains unfinished and does not justify an ending so unfaithful to the essence of the original. In practice, the 1997 anime and subsequent films simply stopped, leaving huge conflicts unresolved. Fans were left with a feeling of a great narrative void. Griffith's arc, the conflicts of Hijikata and the Gremory Corps, among others, never received a conclusion. Thus, Berserk tops the list as the series whose long-awaited ending never came. This series had everything it needed to be epic, but its animated version strayed from the manga in the final stretch. The anime created an alternative ending without the original author's collaboration, with key character deaths and an abrupt ending. Univision points out that by moving away from the original manga, the anime took a different direction, with the deaths of very important characters and a nonsensical ending, which ended up killing the series. In other words, the anime's ending did not match the manga's ending. In fact, the manga continued to be published afterwards. Many fans felt that the anime dishonored the original story by Takahiro and artist Tashiro, ruining the title's legacy. In 2019, the sequel was animated, but by then the damage had been done among those who saw the original anime first. The Bleach anime concluded in 2012 without adapting the final arc of the manga. The ending we saw was incomplete and rushed. As Univision points out, the animated version did not have its own conclusion. It was hasty and forced and delivered the coup de grace to a story that was already beginning to decline. At the time, the series was canceled before animating the final Quincy arc, leaving the animation half-finished. The omission, which was only picked up again in a new anime in 2022, frustrated viewers. In short, the audience felt that Bleach died slowly by not concluding the confrontation between Ichigo and Yhwach, leaving many loose ends. The adaptation of Highschool of the Dead is famous for not having a real ending. The manga, which hinted at an epic climax in the family conflicts of the Sato brothers, was left unfinished due to disputes between the authors. This forced the anime to end abruptly in the middle of the plot. Univision explains that the separation of the creators forced the adaptation to end abruptly and openly. In other words, the final episode of the anime is simply the last animated chapter without its own conclusion. Viewers were left in suspense, as the zombie threat remained active and the expected confrontation was never even seen. With no manga to conclude the story, HOTD remained a classic example of a series with no ending. When the Inuyasha anime surpassed the original manga, the producers invented their own ending, which many found unsatisfactory. According to Univision, the anime, as is the case with the vast majority, surpassed the manga in terms of story, attempting to provide a poor and inconclusive original conclusion. The final episode of the anime showed Nariku's defeat with Adashur saving Inuyasha, but left several elements unresolved: respect, secondary characters, etc. Fortunately, years later, Inuyasha Kenketsuhen was released, an animated special that adapted the true ending of the manga and offered the official conclusion. However, the fans' first experience was the interrupted anime, which clearly differs from the epic ending plan by Rumiko Takahashi. That is why the original series is marked by that alternative ending that went nowhere, even though it was later corrected. The Soul Eater anime had a very different pace and ending from the manga. To rush the story, the studio commissioned a completely original ending. Univision comments that the final episode of the anime was so rushed that many thought it would be a prelude to a new season. However, a second season never materialized. The final conflict with Kishin was resolved in a single episode. One blow was enough to settle the matter, which outraged the audience. The general impression was that the anime cut the story short abruptly, leaving numerous plots and characters unresolved. In contrast, the manga did continue and conclude, so readers know that Soul Eater had much more potential. In short, the animated ending was so bland and forced that it ruined the epic build-up of the series. The original Shaman King is paradigmatic. The TV series deviated from the manga because it was still ongoing. When the 2001 anime caught up with the original material, the studios imposed their own poetic ending on the screenwriter. As its own wiki explains, the anime deviated from the original story, with an independent ending created for the 2001 series. In practice, the animated climax concluded the story with an alternative ending that left several questions unanswered. For example, we never see what happens to Hao after the final battle. Fans criticize this useless ending because it fails to tie up many of the manga's plot threads. Fortunately, years later, the manga ended, and in 2021, an animated remake was released that does adapt the entire story, providing a true ending. But the 2001 version remained in memory as a rushed ending that did not please fans, highlighting the two sides of the problem: invented anime versus completed manga. The first adaptation of Fullmetal Alchemist is a classic example of a problematic ending. The 2003 anime caught up with the manga and was forced to create its own ending. Many fans felt that this original ending missed the mark. After removing details from the manga and altering the plot in the final stretch, the concluding episode was confusing and disappointing for the audience. The criticism was such that they tried to fix it with the movie Conqueror of Shambhala to get out of the fiasco of the anime's ending, but that movie didn't convince anyone either. Thus, the legacy of that first anime was tarnished by a poorly received ending. In contrast, FMA, Brotherhood, a decade later, did faithfully adapt the manga and achieved a much more acclaimed ending. The case of Fullmetal Alchemist, 2003, illustrates how altering the original plot can ruin a series, to the point that the audience itself clamored for a more faithful reboot. The My Hero Academia manga concluded in mid-2024, leaving many fans with mixed feelings. Although the ending is emotional, it left many feeling that something was missing. According to El Comercio, thousands of readers were disappointed by the way Izuku Midoriya's Deku story ended. The most controversial point was that the romantic conclusion with Ochako Uraraka was implied. The manga hints that they ended up together, but never shows an explicit statement. This divided the fandom. Some celebrated the subtle ending, others expected more. In addition, several wanted a clearer conclusion about Deku's heroic future after the war. In short, the editorial version of the ending left open questions and changes that did not satisfy everyone. It should be noted that author Horikoshi later explained that he had initially planned a different ending but modified elements to avoid further rejection. Ultimately, the ending of MHA was controversial both for what it showed and what it left out, sparking heated debates among fans. At the top of the list is the ending of Evangelion, with two endings that went down in history for their confusion and controversy. The original ending of the series, episodes 25 and 26, was so abstract that no one understood anything. This ending focused on the psychology of the characters, especially Shinji, rather than the mecha action, leaving most viewers with more questions than answers. This confusion led to the creation of the film The End of Evangelion, 1997, a much more explicit and violent alternative ending. While this film offered scenes of direct confrontation, its message, equally dark, further divided the audience. Univision notes that the film served to rewrite the story with disturbing images, although many wondered if it was more satisfying or simply more depressing. In short, both Evangelion endings are highly debated. The original for its abstraction and the film for its brutality. This double ending marked a milestone. It is one of the most iconic and controversial anime endings in history. Each of these outcomes left a controversial mark. In some cases, the problem was that the anime added or changed the ending, for example, Shaman King or FMA 2003, in others that the manga ended in an unpleasant way, such as MHA, or was left unfinished, Berserk, Hot D. The truth is that these endings have generated intense debate among fans. Be that as it may, knowing both perspectives, anime and manga, helps to understand why some endings are so hotly debated.